Does the return of the Women's Tour de France go far enough in addressing inequality in the sport itself? A cycling champion and nowadays a TV pundit, Marion Rousse is the event's director. As a former female professional cyclist, you must be totally thrilled about the upcoming Women's Tour de France because this is an opportunity for the female peloton to take part in a truly prestigious event.
There are no words to describe the impact of having the Women's Tour de France. Whether it's the Tour de France for men or women, it has an impact which goes beyond the boundaries of sport. It will be broadcast in over 190 countries in the world, with 2.5 hours live each day. It's exceptional. We haven't seen this for women's cycling.
It's been 30 years since the last race. Why has it taken such a long time to come back?
It's taken too long, like you said. I've said it before as well, and it's true. I was a professional cyclist, and I never got the chance to do a Tour de France. Now the anomaly has been fixed, but it took a lot for women cycling to get this far. For instance, there was a minimum salary established by the International Union of Cyclists, and more men's teams started to create female teams at a professional level. Everything really came together to get to this point. And now we have a real gem on our hands, and it's up to us to take care of it.
Now, the men's race lasts for 3 weeks, but the women's race only lasts for 8 days. Why is that the case?
Because we shouldn't go too fast. Our goal is to still be here in 100 years' time. Female competitors are capable of doing a 3-week race. But even if women's cycling has evolved a lot, we don't have the same infrastructure as the men's. Whereas the men's, well, they have 30 guys employed, and you can go on many races and do different routes. For us, if we take a 3-week route, the 10 women who are paid to take part in it wouldn't be able to participate in other races. We don't want to kill other races. We want to be here in the long term, but we aren't closing the door to becoming bigger and expanding our event in the next few years.
It does seem, though, that women's cycling is at a critical stage of development, but some argue that this race is a token gesture, that it doesn't go far enough to promote equality within the sport. What would you say to your critics?
There was the Tour of Qatar for women cyclists. The Flèche Wallonne has been around for many years. The Liège-Bastogne-Liège made a comeback. There's a Paris-Roubaix race which was also created for women. So it's continually happening. We aren't here to create an event just because we were asked to. So when I was asked to become race director, I made sure that it would be the same title as the Tour de France, that we could do the same thing, that we wouldn't be a second-rate race just because of the media pressure there was to create this event. I can tell you that Christian Prudhomme is as invested in the men's Tour de France as he is in the women's. And we are all working hand in hand to make it a real Tour de France, whether it's for the men's race, which is like our big brother, or the women's race, which will become the 4th week of the tour. And that's why I accepted, and I'm 100% sure of the project.
So, Marion, this is clearly the first stage of the journey.
There have been women's Tour de France well before us. They called it Tour de France Women's in the late 1980s, and I'm not going to deny that either, because all those women were very important to us. And of course, with the developments in women's cycling, what was missing was the slow build-up. And at this current point in time, whether it's men's or women's cycling, there is no better race than the Tour de France. So it's a step that's paramount. It's important because it will permit female cyclists to become known by spectators, but also by people who like the sport, or who simply like watching the Tour de France. And there is no other race that's able to do that.